Hey my friend, it's Brendan. In this session, we're gonna kind of dive deep and help you pinpoint some areas of your life that maybe are going great and some areas that might be struggling and how those areas are affecting your wellness, meaning your overall happiness, your overall progress, your overall performance. I think you're really gonna love this one. So do me a favor, make sure you bust out a journal or a piece of paper, take some notes on this session like always. That will really help you. In this session as well, we're gonna begin with a download, a worksheet that you have here in the course, and it's gonna be really important for you, okay? It comes from my high performance planner. So if you've ever seen this before, this is kind of like a two-in-one productivity planner and productivity journal. And what we've taken in this course is one of the most important assessments that I created in this planner. It's called the Whole Life Assessment. And the Whole Life Assessment is 10 areas of your life that you now score yourself on a rating of 1 to 10. And we're gonna dive into each of these areas in this session right now. So make sure you download the worksheet that goes along with this video because it will be really helpful for you to keep track. And I always feel like, you know what? Real wellness in our life starts with real awareness to where we're on track and where we're off. Because where we're on track in our life, you know, when you feel like you're on your path or you feel like you're on your A game or being your best self, man, that's part of well-being. You feel like you're congruent, you're connecting, you're contributing, that your energy is great, your motivation is great. All those things we talked about in day number 1. Well, that like feels great. But when you feel like you're off track, isn't it true that it affects your mental performance? Isn't it true it affects how you feel about yourself? When you feel off track in your life or lost, even in one area, it's just like, it's a downer. And the more you feel like down in certain parts of your life, the more your wellness suffers. All right, think about it. If there's like 5 areas of your life you feel crappy in, do you feel like working out? Do you feel like doing your best work? Do you feel like you're the best person for your kids or for your team? I'm guessing you know the answer is no. So part of our life is learning to get greater alignment to the major areas of our life and improving each area of our life. Which is, again, I know that's why you joined this course, so I celebrate you for that. And in this session, we're just gonna pinpoint some areas for you that I don't want you to look at and feel like, oh gosh, I'm not doing well here and get down, but rather be like excited. When I identify an area of my life that I can improve, I get excited about that. I'm like, oh wow, maybe that's why like unconsciously over here, I'm not doing good at work is because in this area, I don't feel satisfied. Or maybe I don't feel like I'm being awesome to my wife because in this area over here, I've been neglecting it and my mind's frustrated. It's mad at me because my mind wants me to focus here and I'm not focusing there. So I'm not being congruent with what I know I should be doing. So I feel upset internally, and that internal upset affects whether or not I treat my wife well. You follow? So it's important that we look at these different areas of our life, and that's kind of one reason I made the high performance planner is that every day I make you measure different areas of your life. There'll be a link somewhere where you can check out the planner, but we actually included one of the major assessments in here, again, for you free. So make sure you download it or you have it on hand so that you can fill this out as we go through the rest of this video. So take a moment to access it right now. So you'll see here, there's 10 different categories of your life here, and you can score yourself on a score of 1 to 10. Again, 1 being like low agreement or bad, 10 being you totally agree with it or it's awesome, right? And we take on these categories like your health. So do you feel like you're regularly taking care of your mental, emotional, and your physical health? 1 would be, no, I don't take care of myself, Brendan. 10, oh my gosh, I do all the things, I drink all the things, I have all the healthy things, my cupboards are full of supplements, oh my God, right? So whatever it is for you. Then we take on your mental, emotional life. We take on your partner, your love, your spouse, your family, friends, mission, experiences, spirit, finances, and learning. You can see all these areas. And what I want you to do is fill this whole thing out, scoring yourself in each of these areas. And then I want you to identify the 3 highest performing ones and the 3 lowest performing ones. Meaning like the 3 ones that you didn't get a good score on, and the 3 ones you did get a good score on. And what I want to do is teach you why. Like, why are there some areas that you're doing better in, and some areas you're not doing better in? Because isn't it true, sometimes the major challenge in our life is we've got an area and we're struggling in it, but we don't know why? We're going to cover that today. So you've got your scores, right? You've got your top 3 and your bottom 3 in this whole life assessment. So let's talk about why those are the way that they are. This is really going to help you. I'm going to give you 3 big concepts in this session that are going to explain all of those scores. And these 3 big concepts also explain why do high-performing people in their life sometimes fall from that perch? Why is it sometimes you're great with your health and then you're not? Why is it sometimes you're great in your relationship and then you're not? Like, what is it that causes that like variability? It's 3 specific things that we learned in the study of the high performers we did at the High Performance Institute. So here's the first concept that explains a lot of that, and it's a basic one. This concept is called neglect. Okay, if you got a low scoring area in any given relationship that you have, as an example, let's say you thought, well, you know, my relationship with my daughter, it's like a 3 out of 10. The reason that tends to happen is because we are neglecting to develop that relationship, or we are neglecting to be our best self in that relationship, or we are neglecting to add time into that. And what's the opposite of neglect? Attention. Time, energy. And we need to identify right off the bat, if we're really going to get honest about your wellness and your overall progress in life, you and I need to get clear. Like, where are you not providing enough time, energy, and effort in your life? Are you not doing well in time, energy, and effort with your spouse, with your learning, with your health, with your own mental and emotional like freedom and time? Like, I really want you to identify, like, where is time, energy, and effort causing you pain? I know you're like, dude, I thought this was going to be a motivating course. I know some of this is heavy. So please, you know what? Allow that. Let's like work together here and like honor this process to get greater awareness to our life. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, and sometimes you're going to be sad. Like, oh my God, I'm sad. I have a 3 out of 10 with my daughter. I want to be a better mom. Hey, listen, we all got to start with where we're at. Awareness and real well-being starts with truth. And I'll tell you what, if you neglect or avoid any of these areas of your life, guess what? That avoidance grows up into a big, ugly monster. If you neglect or you avoid that health diagnosis, your health gets worse. If you neglect or avoid the fact that you're not growing, 3 years from now, you feel miserable. Now it's okay. But if you neglect the experiences of your life, the adventures of your life, the learning of your life, 3-4 years from now, even if you have money and you love your spouse and you do your yoga, something starts eating away at your psychology. So that's why it's important to be honest as you're doing these ratings, but also not get down. Because whatever your low scores are, we got to be honest. Did any of those low scores come from neglect or avoidance? And if it did, what's the first right action of integrity you could do to improve it? So number 1 thing that throws people off their perch is neglect and avoidance. Number 2, and this is a big one, listen to this, dissatisfaction. Think about this. Maybe you scored really well and you're like, Brendan, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I scored 10 out of 10 in all 10 areas. But I've actually had people who's told me that. And then I said, are you happy? And they said, not as much as I want to be. And here's what's interesting about humans and our psychology that really affects our performance is we can have everything going for us and still not be happy because we're always dissatisfied. I know people who it looks like they have the perfect life, but internally they're always dissatisfied with themselves or their performance. And because they're dissatisfied as they are striving, it might as well be misery. And so I want you to think about this. Is lack of appreciation leading to any of those scores you wrote down? You know, in wellness, we always talk about gratitude. In personal development, we always talk about gratitude. In everything we have measured in the last 30 years in happiness comes back to gratitude. But a lot of people, they fail to appreciate the different parts of their life. And so turmoil internally starts happening. So look at your whole life through that assessment. Is there any area that you just felt you've been so dissatisfied that you enter it dissatisfied? For example, your partner, your love, your spouse, are you entering the day with your spouse already dissatisfied? Because if you are, what's the odds of you improving that? I mean, think about the experiences. You're gonna take your kids to Disneyland and you're already like, okay, the weather's not gonna be good, it's not gonna be okay, I'm already dissatisfied with this experience. What's the odds of you creating a great experience for your kids? Not good. But so many people have gotten trapped into living in dissatisfaction. And when you live in dissatisfaction, I mean, think about the well of wellness. It is a deep, dark pit. But here's the tell. You know what sounds different than dissatisfaction? It sounds, you know what the pretty version of dissatisfaction is? Perfection. People say, Brendan, I'm a perfectionist. I can't be happy. Nothing's ever perfect, so I can't be happy. And if that's you, listen, perfection is just a fancy word for dissatisfaction. And so you're poisoning yourself with perfection. You're not appreciating what is good and what is there. Listen, we can all be excellence-driven, but being excellence-driven is different than being a perfectionist, where everything has to be perfect or you're moody and crappy and horrible to human beings. Right? But that's what a lot of perfectionists are. They're moody and crappy to other people. What's the difference between a happy perfectionist and an unhappy perfectionist? The unhappy perfectionist is striving, working diligently, dissatisfied. And the happy person who's excellence-driven feels like, you know what? I enjoy this process. I'm going to bring peace, positivity, joy, vibrancy, passion to what I'm doing. So out of all those areas that you wrote down about your life, are there any areas where you have been moody, crappy, judgmental, or perfectionist in a way that is hurting your performance there and causing you internal struggle, internal strife, internal suffering? I want to tell you this. It's the energy that you are bringing into these things that are leading to those results. The mindset and the energy we bring into something is really important, right? You know, I told you previously that one time in my life I went broke. And I went broke because I didn't know how to be an author. I didn't know how to make money in my brand, or there wasn't the term influencer yet. And you know, I was an author and a speaker and a coach and a trainer, and I was doing all these things. I didn't know how. And the truth is, I didn't just go broke because I didn't know what to do. I also went broke because I had an issue with money. I grew up with so much lack and abundance, I never thought I could have it. You know? I never saw myself as achieving some kind of like remarkable financial abundance. I wasn't putting out that energy, that hope, that ambition. I wasn't trying to attract it because I couldn't even see it. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, my finances for the first 2 decades of my life were like a 1 out of 10. And what changed there? Was it just I knew what to do in my finances? I started learning a little bit about that, but I also changed my mindset. I said, I don't want to be a 1. I want to be a 10 in my finances. What would that take? How would I have to save? How much would I have to earn? What conversation would I have to change in my mind to do better in this area? Now again, finances might not be your area. Maybe your area is your health, or your partner, or your spouse, or your family, or your friends, or your adventure. I don't know. But listen, the energy you are bringing into it and the mindset you have to improve it is leading that result. And so I'm cheering you on, my friend. As much as I'm like making you look hard at this, I'm like, I want you to improve this area so much. So give yourself that gift of knowing either neglect and avoidance are leading to that. and the opposite is giving it enough time, energy, and effort. Or it might be dissatisfaction, and the opposite is bringing joy to that area, bringing openness, awareness, thoughtfulness, ambition to that area to improve it. Last big area that people really struggle in, that like knocks high performers off their perch or prevents people from becoming a high performer, is this thing called superiority. Talk about a sensitive subject, OMG. Superiority. Like if you feel you're better than other people in that area of your life, that might be why you're struggling to break through to the next level. Because when we feel superior, we stop asking questions. When we stop asking questions, we stop learning. When we stop learning, we stop developing competence. In psychology, when we stop developing competence, our confidence goes down because there's this thing called the confidence-competence loop, right? The more confident you are, the more you're willing to try. The more you're willing to try, the more you learn. The more competent you become. The more confident you become, the more you're going, I got this, so the more confident you are. The confidence-competence loop, we call it, in the High Performance Institute. So with that known, is there any areas in that whole life assessment where you just frankly stopped asking questions? I've always noticed the lowest performing thing, people avoid it and they stop doing the research on it, right? When I meet people and their health is like a 1 out of 10, they stopped asking questions. Because isn't it true? There's so much data, so much insight, so much research about how to become healthy these days, but they just neglected it, they parked it, they set their ambitions low because they're dissatisfied there, so they put it over here, and now the score is low. Because they stopped asking questions. And you think, well, is stop asking questions related to superiority? Because most people think of superiority as just know-it-all. No, one thing about the ego is when it tips into superiority, it thinks it knows the answer. And so it says, no, that's not for me. I can't do it, won't learn it. I'm just this way. The ego loves to say, I'm just this way, can't improve, screw you, don't need to listen, judges things as bad ideas. And superiority's essence is closed-mindedness. And a lot of people in the big important areas of their life, they got closed-minded. They gave up on their husband. They gave up on their work. They gave up on their family. And hey, listen, maybe that was healthy for them, so I'm not judging it. But what I'm here to say is, if we get into a place where we're closed-minded, or we've already gotten to the conclusion, or we've already judged it as possible or not possible, we struggle in our wellness. But also, we struggle socially. One reason people fall from the perch of high performance is socially, they started judging other people too much. Socially, they think they're smarter than other people. Socially, they think other people can't figure things out, but they're so bright. And because we're so good and other people suck, we start poisoning relationships. And when you poison relationships, isn't it true? Your relationships with yourself and other people causes like this toxicity. And now, I mean, what's the opposite of wellness? Think of like a well, like a deep, pure, beautiful well that feeds into a mountain spring. What's the way to ruin that? Poison it with toxic materials. And that's what we do when we hurt our relationships. And the number one way to hurt your relationships is to think you know somebody, to judge their potential, to determine whether they're capable or not, to set a label upon them and close them down forever in your mind, because that prevents you from growing and connecting. And if you remember, day one, we talked about the importance of connection to your well-being, because you start disconnecting from other people, then you stop feeling that vibrancy of human relationships that you deserve. And so you have to kind of look at yourself and say, have I been humble? Am I asking questions in these areas? Have I shut down the possibility or potential of this area for me? Have I shut down the possibility or potential of another person? Those three things that we've talked about so far, neglect, dissatisfaction, and superiority, tends to really affect people's scores here. And I know this might sound like kind of like an academic way to go about it, like, geez, Brandon, there's a lot of scores here and these frameworks here, but I'm trying to give you new ways to conceive and achieve well-being and wellness, because I really deeply believe that if we could just start pinpointing areas of our life, and then, as you're going to learn in the future of this course, setting better intention and setting up better foundations of habits and mindsets, we can start improving those scores. And listen, on that whole life assessment, the more you start moving those scores ahead, right, to more positive numbers, and the more they start aligning, the more you feel like, whoa, there's a balance and a truth and a beauty to my life. If one area is poisoned all the time, it can bring down the other areas. Isn't it true? So all I want you to do today, all I want to achieve with you today is give you this framework, have you score yourself, and ask that simple question: what's one thing I could do in each of these areas to improve it? The reason people neglect parts of their life and forget to have progress in them is they took their eye off the ball. They forgot to look at these areas of their life. And sometimes neglect, wasn't purposeful. They got busy and they forgot to think about their family. They forgot to think about their mission. They forgot to think about experiences and creating beauty and adventure in their life. It's easy as you're trying to achieve big things in your life to take your eye off the ball. But now that you have the whole life assessment in this course or in the High Performance Planner, you can measure yourself every single Sunday and go, where am I honest? Where am I really right now in this area? Let me improve it.